Interview Coder, a platform for cheating on technical interviews, just leaked its users' information in the stupidest way possible. If you go onto their website and you hover over the information of their users who successfully used Interview Coder and copy and paste it, you can actually find a bunch of these users' home addresses, personal information, job offers, and a bunch of information that you do not need to know. The issue with this situation is I actually am a bit skeptical that this is real. Mainly because Roy Lee, the guy who made Interview Coder and Clearly, is kind of a master of social media and creating buzz around things. I mean, I'm making a video about this. I'm certain other people are going to make videos about this. And maybe it's going to be a net negative in general because more people will use this tool. But maybe if you watch this video and learn something from it, you'll find the right resources to actually learn how to pass these technical interviews. So let's go into it a little bit deeper. Why am I skeptical about Roy Lee and this Interview Coder leak? Well, it's because that Interview Coder actually hasn't been doing that well over the past couple of months. And this has been proven by Roy Lee, and I'm pretty sure it's because most people know that these platforms actually don't work. And well, why do I say that? It's because you know that these companies have a way to screen for you using AI tools or you having something else open in your browser or something like that. Interview Coder doesn't live in its own bubble where companies aren't paying hundreds of millions of dollars for other companies to defend against tools like Interview Coder. And if you think that Roy Lee's team of how many developers are going to go against, I don't know, Google or Apple security teams, then I think you're highly mistaken on what is actually a real claim and what's not. And we can actually go onto the Interview Coder website and see the fraudulent claims that they're making. I mean, look, trusted by 97,000 devs hired at top companies. I don't think that's the case. And the proof is in the comparison hasn't been caught. This is just an absolute lie because zero documented cases of users being detected or flagged when using this tool during technical interviews. That is just an absolute lie. I know so many people who have been caught using this tool who have actually been blacklisted from companies. Again, this is from like Reddit and nobody I know personally, but I mean, this is just an outwards lie. I mean, who knows if these roles and everything over here are even real? I'm just saying, like, there's no way to actually prove how these are real. This might say proof, right? But this is the video of Roy Lee using Interview Coder, maybe in his first ever video, right? There's no other video of anybody else using it in another experience or anything like that. And oh yeah, here was the place where you could highlight and copy and paste the information of the users. It's crazy because listen, these are 196K a year job, 220K a year job. We don't know that any of this is true or real, but let's say it is. Okay, and let's even give the hypothetical example that Interview Coder does work, right? Then why aren't more people using it? Why has the Interview Coder growth been flatlining for a while? Because it hasn't. And all of that stuff on the website is a lie. Roy Lee wants to kill leak code and save millions of hours of developer time globally as his best case scenario with Interview Coder. But I just don't think that's the case. The case for Roy Lee and many other people who are creating startups or businesses is probably just to make the most amount of money. And in reality, Roy Lee probably just wants to run this business as any other SaaS would, right? The issue with most of these Interview Coder or like job platforms is that once you get a job, you kind of don't need the tool anymore. Now, Roy Lee says that he really wants to kill leak code and save millions of hours of developer time globally, but I really think that Interview Coder is just any other business. This credo of saving of millions of hours of developer time, I don't really think that's the case, right? I think the whole point of Interview Coder is just to make money and to lie to people essentially with the false hope that they will succeed. And I think that this is a very common strategy in most job recruiting and most actual, hey, I'll teach you this in order to succeed products, right? Because Roy Lee is guaranteeing that this product will be undetectable, tested daily on every interviewer app, undetectable. Oh my God, it's so funny. Undetectable. Yeah. So I know it's detectable on HackerRank. I know it's all that, but like if you want Interview Coder or any SaaS product to be successful, you have to essentially charge somebody over a long period of time. The issue with Interview Coder and any sort of tool that you pay for in order to complete something and then you don't need it afterwards is that you can't really get that recurring revenue. And that leads to people buying the tool, and then a bunch of people don't need the tool anymore. And then maybe everybody shoots up and needs the tool again, and nobody really needs the tool anymore. The issue with this is it's actually not that great of a business model. I mean, let's look at apps like Tinder or Hinge or anything that provides a service through a software. These apps actually don't want you to find and date somebody. They want you to stay on their platform for as long as possible and spend as much money. That's why Hinge has roses, Tinder has super swipes. I don't really know any other platform, but essentially, right, if you have a service that you're providing, eventually the users will stabilize and then growth won't go up like this. You'll just have like a continuous churn and you won't be able to get past a certain point. And so again, Roy Lee saying he wants to kill LeetCode and save millions of hours developer time globally is kind of BS, because I think Roy Lee could care less about you or me succeeding on a LeetCode interview, right? And so that leads to the question, it's like, okay, is this data leak real or is it fake then? In my opinion, I don't know if this entire leak thing is real or not, but I like this quote. It's called Hanlon's Razor. It says, "Never attribute to Malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity," right? The developers on Interview Coder probably aren't that good of software engineers to have the cognizance to, make sure that you can't highlight text on a redacted document. They also thought that instead of actually like putting black bars over the text and actually like, editing the metadata of the image directly versus just putting black bars over it through some sort of like Word or like redact tool would also protect their users, but it obviously didn't. So I think, this is probably stupidity if you really think about it, because I think this would have been picked up by more people if this was something that was actually a problem, right? Because it turns out this really isn't that big of a thing right now. It hasn't been talked about on Twitter and the news cycle. I guess people are more interested in Claude and like the things around that. But in general, never attribute to Malice that is adequately explained by stupidity. I just think this was plain stupidity, and the people who got exposed, sorry, not sorry. Because if you're using Interview Coder to cheat and actually land these interviews, I think that, you should probably know better. And I mean, Roy is definitely somebody, again, who knows how to use social media, knows how to rile people up. All of human progress has been built around breaking old systems and building new ones, right? Uber killed the taxi industry. Airbnb killed the booking industry. You can't have technological change without disruption. He wants Jarvis from Iron Man to be his AI assistant that passes LeetCode interviews, right? Now, doing a little bit more digging, I found this post by the CEO of the actual Interview Coder. I don't think Roy Lee is the one who directly manages it anymore, but it says, "When they go low, we go high." And it shows the YouTube channel with the Interview Coder leak and their Stripe page having a ton of people buying money. Obviously, you can just edit all this information over here, and I don't know if this is supposed to be proof that the person who's making these videos is actually not a real person or an intern or something like that. But again, it doesn't really matter. The issue is that I'm making a video about this and I'm talking more about the problem instead of providing resources for you to figure out how to become a better software engineer. So this is the part of the video where I'm going to explain to you how you can actually become better at something and why you should become better at something in general. So let's talk about it. The fact of the matter is there is no shortcut to anything. The people who think that there is a shortcut to anything, it probably doesn't understand how game theory works or just how life works in general, right? Because the shortcut to most things is work that either you put in or somebody in the past generation of you put in, right? So you can say, hey, that person's parents are rich. They got so rich and they're so lucky they get to go on vacations every single time, right? But I'm pretty sure that nobody is born completely rich, right? Let's look at an example. You may have a friend who has really rich parents, right? And they're always going on vacations and they're always living up their life. And you feel really bad because you know what? I don't have that life. And this guy gets to succeed and profit over the efforts of his parents. And he didn't even do anything to deserve it, right? Well, that's true, but I don't think this is actually a shortcut, right? he technically is enjoying the fruits of labor that 3 generations maybe before him have set up. So yes, it is a little bit unfair in the sense that you don't get to live the life that you want because you don't have generations of parents that worked hard to create a foundation for you. But hey, you can start your own foundation, and in the future, you can have an outcome just as great as this person's, right? There is no shortcut to success, meaning that you're going to have to always put in some effort of work in order for something to happen. You don't just get lucky. You usually put shots on goal and you do something continuously until a result occurs. And this is kind of the same thing with LeetCode and with just finding jobs in general. If you really want a secret to finding a job or, getting into these crazy roles or something like that, it's be born in Silicon Valley, right? Go to the best high schools and then have a parent that works in big tech, right? These will probably automatically just net you a job inside of big tech, but you don't really have any control over any of these, right? But what do you have control over, right? You have control over the way that you spend your time. You have control over the people that you decide to spend time with, your friends, the things you work on after your responsibilities are completed. All of that is all up to you. And so you may not have the choice of your family. You may not have the choice of a lot of things, but you do at least have the choice in some things. And that, again, is kind of the secret. There is no shortcut, meaning that wherever you are today, you're going to have to put in 10 times, 100 times more effort than some other person. And that's just the way the game works. And it is unfair, but there are no shortcuts, at least for everyone. And I don't think you should be attributing that to unfairness and give up with all of your efforts. I think you just have to keep trying, and you just have to really sacrifice a big portion of yourself to essentially become the type of person that you want to be, right? Because is the type of person that you want to be somebody that studies LeetCode, understands computer science really well, and has like a bunch of friends and a bunch of money and stuff like that? You're gonna have to sacrifice what this version of yourself was in order to become this guy. And people who use tools like Interview Coder, people who use cheating tools in general, just don't want to go through the pain of this entire process over here. And it is really painful to do, but trust me, the people who end up in these roles, in these, companies or something like that, they know where they're going, or they'll have a feeling in their heart that they don't deserve what they actually got, right? And that feeling that they have in there is something that you will never have if you actually have the proof of your efforts. And that's all you can hope for, because this feeling in your heart, this peace, this understanding that the effort that you put in is the effort that you got out. It's almost like wisdom, right? You can't have wisdom. You can't shortcut understanding things. You just have to understand that things come at a cost and they take a lot of time. And you have to be okay with that. And people who use Interview Coder, who use these tools, may think they're cool, you know what I mean? But in reality and deep down, they'll always be chasing that high. They'll always be trying to climb that ladder. And I'm not saying this is the wrong thing, right? Who knows? They may be satisfied, they may be unsatisfied, but at least you'll know that your efforts actually resulted in something that you deserve. Because there's a lot of people who didn't use Interview Coder who actually really succeeded, built a great life, did a bunch of things that actually improved the way that the world works. And I would much rather be this type of person than this type of person. And so what are some good resources for you to use in order to learn coding? I would say give boot.dev a shot. Give actually just opening up Cursor and making some code and actually writing some things a shot. And also, why don't you just go to a hackathon? Try making friends with people who are computer scientists, who really enjoy building, who are probably trying to land the same roles that you're trying to land. And if you just combine these 3 things and maybe even pay for some sort of service to teach you how to do LeetCode or tutoring or something like that, kind of like anybody does for SATs or any sort of standardized exam, which is what LeetCode essentially is. It's an IQ test. Then you can just get better like that. And it's going to take time and it's going to suck and it's going to be really painful. But if it's what you want, then you're going to have to do it. And at the end of the day, I don't think it actually really matters what Interview Coder or whatever Abdullah or Roy Lee does. just please be a good person and try your best to get better, because getting better is what's important. Overall, I hope that you succeed in whatever you do and you just keep on pushing forward. If you need any help with resume reviews or actually just improving your profile in general, please leave me a DM at Matt Feroz on Instagram so I can help you out. Thank you so much. That's the video. Peace.